Welcome to Forest.chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we're talking with Lynette Milne about setting up Black Swan Lake parkrun. Lynette started parkrunning about 2015 and worked her way towards being an event director, and more recently has set up Black Swan Lake parkrun. Welcome to Forest.chat, Lynette.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
When did you start parkrun?
I stumbled into parkrun coming up to 11 years ago. And I say stumble because I never heard of parkrun whatsoever before, because Dawesville gained themselves a parkrun. And my crazy Canadian friend Sarah said to me, "We're going to do parkrun. Parkrun's coming to Dawesville." And I'm like, parkrun? Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, like you run and then you get a time." And I'm like, okay. And I'd been running maybe about a year because I started off running couch to 5K once we moved here. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And then she says, "Oh, you need a barcode." And I'm thinking, what kind of run is this? And she's like, I says, "How far is it?" And she's like, "Oh, it's just 5K. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I could do 5K. Right, I'll get you a barcode." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And it doesn't cost you anything. It's free. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay." So she says, "I'll get you a tag." And then she messaged, "I need to know your emergency details." I'm like,
What's going on?
Okay. 5K, get a grip. So she's like, "Oh, yeah, I've got your tag." So we all met at Dawesville. I'm like, "Oh, yeah. 5K. I think it was 80 people there for Dawesville's launch, coming up to 11 years ago. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I could do this." Yeah, as you know, you start off, "Oh, yeah," everybody drags you along, you're like, doing good. And if anybody's ever done the Dawesville parkrun course, it's an out and back. And when I got to the jetty on the way back, I'm like, "Oh, I feel a bit sick." And I knew I only had 500 meters to go. I can do this. It's like a cough. And then that was it. I started gagging. And I'm like, oh my word, it's only 5K. And then I got over the end. I was like, and I think my time was like 27, 28 minutes, something. And I'm just like, I did it. So after that, it was, we met up maybe a couple of months continuous then. But then everybody in our group at the time kind of like fell away from it. So, "Oh, yeah, I'll keep going." Chugged along, went by myself a few times, and it was like, and then I kind of fell away from it. Do not ask me what I did at that time when I fell away from it, because I just think Saturday mornings, what did I do with my time before parkrun? And then I went back to it, and then the event director there was like, "Oh, you disappeared. We wondered where you were." And I'm just like, "Oh. Obviously, I was regular enough. You obviously missed me," and whatever. And then after that, I just continued going. And then they needed run directors there. Jumped on board as a run director. Was run directing for maybe 3-4 months. And then the event director there messaged and said, "Oh, look, I've got extra hours at work, and it's probably going to be on Saturdays. Could you co-event direct with me?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." She's, "Okay, I'll show you the ropes," and blah, blah, blah. It was basically, there you go. She disappeared, and I'm like, "Oh, right, okay." So it was like, muddle through. And I just, at the time as well, Dawesville was losing their numbers as well, because the run directing team, you could see them, they were having disagreements and falling away from each other. And it was just like, okay. So I thought, I could see how much people liked it as well. So I'm like, I've got to get the numbers up here. And there was a lot of times I was run directing a lot of weeks because they had a small run directing team. People couldn't do it. And it was back in the day as well when it was the old stopwatch and the old barcode scanner. And in that days I'm a run director, but I can also be the timekeeper, or I could also hand out tokens, because we really struggled to get volunteers. So it was like I was quite often jumping into like doing 3-4 roles. Whereas nowadays, no, it's a big no. You can't. You're run directing, that's all you've got to do. But back in that day, it was like, I can do everything or whatever. But yeah, just built it up. And then she messaged about a year later. She's like, "Can you just be the sole event director? Because like, I just feel like you're doing some of the work and whatever." And I'm thinking, I'm doing the majority of the work. I'll quite easily do it. And by that time, I'd found my feet. People were starting to recognise who I was. I was always friendly to people. I think, in all honesty, that's what brings people back. And if people are, when they come for a start, they're like, you can see them, they're looking all daunting and going, oh, what is this? And I think if you catch that people from the very start, you're like, oh, hey, how are you? Give them a smile and you can see them going, oh, phew, somebody's going to come and help me. And I just continuously did that, and then the numbers just started. And then people, even though the volunteer roster was always hard to fill, the more people got to know you, I always think, and if people like you, people will help you. And then it was like, oh, Lynette's run director today. Oh yeah, I'll do timekeeping. I'll do scanning. And you started to get the rosters filled, and then other run directors new people would come on. And I always said to them, get to know the people, get to know the community. If people like you, people will help you. And they're like, oh, really? I said, no, honestly, they will. And quite often, just each week, the roster started getting better and better. And then after that, it was just like I honestly don't know what I used to do with my Saturday mornings. And then after we got the threat of the local council closing it down, and I did know it was important to people, but until then you didn't know how important it really was, because the threat of it getting closed was just, people's faces were like, now if you've ever been to parkrun, trying to get everybody to be silent for the run brief is a nightmare. And that morning, when I was told, they were like, oh, the council's not going to renew, blah, 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 we're going to have to pay, so we're going to have to stop parkrun. I'm like, and they're like, don't tell anybody. I'm like, no, I can't not tell the community, because it's not me, it's the community. I know how much parkrun brings to the area and the people. Because some people, most weeks, some people will come and the only company they get is parkrun, where they get to see a person and speak to, people, communicate and whatever. And I'm like, no, I've got to tell people. I'm like, oh no, you can't. I've got to tell people. And I remember feeling sick the night before, having it like, I'm going to have to stand up and I'm going to say to people tomorrow, next couple of weeks might be your last parkrun. And I told one of the ex-run directors, I'd messaged him, because he was a run director with me for a while, but I stayed good friends with him, and he was always my sounding board. And I remember messaging him, and he phoned me, and he's just like, how are you feeling? I'm like, they're going to close parkrun. And I was in tears, and he's just like, no, right. Then he came down on the Saturday morning to support me. And I was like, did the run brief, and everybody's like, chit chat. And I'm like, right, guys, this might be your last parkrun, your second last parkrun. Boom. So quiet, you could have heard a pin drop, and everybody was like, just looked at me, and I'm like, right, here goes. And then I was like, oh, look, this is the situation, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody was like, they can't take our parkrun away. And then with that, everybody was just like, it was almost like, they'll never take our parkrun, like freedom, kind of Mel Gibson style. And I was just like, okay, who do we message? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, local councillors. The councillors were inundated. So many emails. The mayor had just newly got married. He was on his honeymoon. He got absolutely smashed with emails. He was like, what's this? What's going on? Because obviously it had never reached higher up yet. And then I had to pull, I say big guns, I had to get one of the federal MPs in the area. I got him on side. So then he pressured the council. And then the council was just like, oh, no, it was a big mistake. And then within the week, it was just like, no, parkrun staying, we don't want any money from you. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay. And when that happened, I thought, this is really important to people in the community. And there was an old guy. He still runs at parkrun. He's a speed walker. He came up to me, because the following weekend, I was like, oh, right, okay. Situation is parkrun staying. Everybody was ecstatic. And this old guy came up to me, tears in his eyes, gave me the biggest hug, and he says, thank you, Lynette. Thank you for managing to save parkrun, because if I didn't have parkrun every week, because he's a carer for his wife, I don't know what I would do. And I just thought, yeah, it's people like that I do parkrun for, because I know that, yeah, you've got your regular runners, walkers, whatever, but there's just a handful of people within that crowd every week. You go, you know what? This is your saviour. You come here, you meet people. this is your break from whatever you've been doing through the week. As I say, he's a carer for his wife and whatever, but it's just things like that. And then after that, it's like, oh yeah. But then Doswell started getting, oh, Lynette, there's a crack in the path. Can you fix it? Lynette, there's a twig in the path. And I'm just like, no, that's simple. You're a ratepayer. Complain to the council. You pay your rates, blah, 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 yeah. And then I was like, if the council comes again chasing after this park run and they're successful, people need somewhere to go. And I thought, where are they going to go? Rockingham. A lot of people will go, not travelling to Rockingham, and Rockingham's too busy. Could go to Tamworth. And then I knew, I've always had my eye on Black Swan for, a few years now. And then I fell back into the dog walking. And I was always walking clients' dogs around Black Swan. I'm like, I'm going to map out this. So in my spare time one day, I was like, that's one lap. It's like 2.3 kilometres. Right, if I do another lap, it's only taking me at 4.6. Right, okay, I've got to get it up to 5. Oh, I do this little bit, but that's a route. Got a route. Oh, yeah, okay. And as I say, it was always playing on my mind for a few years, and I thought, it's a bit scary. It's a lot of money to raise. I'm just like, I don't know. And then I thought, but if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And then they won't do it to my liking. I go, I'll kick myself. I go, I should have done that. They should have done it this way. They should have done that. And I'd be really annoyed. So I'm like, okay. And I was, one time I was in Two Pugs Cafe not long after it opened, and that's one of the cafes that we shout out each week for Black Swan. There was this old guy. He was well into his 90s. And he lived at one of the retirement homes. And he just sits there. He said he comes in every day. He's just by himself. He sits, has a coffee, and he'll chat to people. He says, it's my way. I'm just getting out, seeing people. And I said, do you still drive? And he's like, yeah. He says, but it just fills my day coming down here. And I just thought to myself, parkrun could help somebody like you. But I knew he wouldn't travel all the way to Doswell. So it was always his conversation that I'd had with him a few years back. I thought, if I started a parkrun in Lakelands, I could get that old guy to come, and also residents that he lives with. And okay, they maybe wouldn't be able to do the course, but they could always volunteer. They would still be part of it. So he was always in the back of my mind. And then obviously the council possibly taking Doswell away. And I thought, right, I've got a route. Okay. So it was like last year I thought, am I going to do it? So we went to Jarrahdale Parkrun. It was I think it was their anniversary. And we went for breakfast later, and there was just a group of us from the run club. And I'd already inquired about it because I got in touch with the territory director and went, if I want to start up a parkrun, who do I go to see? Oh, well, you just have to put in a normal inquiry through the normal route and whatever. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So put in the inquiry, and they're like, oh. And of course, Parkrun HQ, there's so many staff there. You get a different person, so they didn't know who I was. I'm like, I'd like to start Parkrun. Hi, how long have you been parkrunning? And what makes you, and how do you think it'll be good for your community? And I'm thinking, you don't know who I am. You don't know that I'm an event director at Doswell. And I'm just like, oh, yeah. So just like, okay, right. I'll just pretend that you clearly don't know who I am, blah, blah, blah. That was February last year. And I'm like, and then I got an event ambassador, which is a step above me. So I got allocated one of those. And it was the same lady who's for Doswell. But again, she doesn't really know me. She knows who I am and that I was an event director, but she doesn't really know me as a person. So she's just like, oh, yeah. So you'll have to first establish a route. Done. I've already done it. Oh, okay. Send it to me and I'll check out. Yeah, okay, fine. And I've already risk assessed what will be potential problems. Oh, yeah, okay. And then she was like, how will you raise the funds? Oh, yeah, well, I know exactly where I'm going to go for funds because when we needed a defib for Doswell Parkrun, the local Mandra Rotary Club, they donated us the money for the actual defib. And they've always said they gather all the proceeds from the Christmas Canal lights cruises during Christmas time. And they always say we've got so much money, we've never got enough local community projects to give to. So if you ever need money, give us a shout. I could go there, and then I says, I'll check out who the landowner is, and if the landowner is nice enough, like people to deal with. But if it's a council, I'm just, because I know how difficult they can be and whatever. But then the land at Black Swan is on private land, and it's also the peat developers. So I'd also got in touch with them to find out if they were the actual landowners. And they're like, oh yeah, if you want to use Black Swan, yeah, we are the landowners for just round about Black Swan. And I said, oh, I was actually, originally I looked at it and had one lap round Black Swan, go under the bridge and take in the Giant, because I thought, how cool would it be to have a park run in the world, and you're going, the only one in the world, you go past a famous artist like Giant, and they're like, oh yeah, no, but if you go under the bridge, that's under council land. I'm like, oh, okay, right, not doing that. Right, I'll stick with the plan of 2 laps. Oh yeah, if 2 laps around Black Swan, yeah, it's us. Oh, yeah. And then I went, oh, no, we kind of need some money. And they're like, oh yeah, we can donate. How much do you have to raise? So I'd said to them how much I had to raise. Oh yeah, well, we can donate to that. You just fill out this paperwork and the money's yours. Excellent. So that was a start. And I remember when we was at Jarrahdale Park Run, I said to the small group of runners at breakfast time, I thought, oh, there's a good group here, I can say, this is what I'm thinking. I went, oh, since you're all here, and everybody looked at me. And they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, well, it's not bad, but it's a bit scary. And they're like, what? And I went, I'm thinking of starting up a park run. Where? And everybody was excited. It was all Black Swan Lake at Lakelands. Oh, it's right beside us. Da-da-da. And one guy was there, and he's like, do you need money? Yeah. How much do you need? I went, well, yeah, that's a scary bit, because it is really, it's a scary amount. It took me a good 2-3 weeks to get my head around, like, can I do this? Because it's a lot of money, and I hate asking people for money. And he's like, I'll give you the money. Oh, but it's a lot of money. I'll give you money. No. I said, you can give me some of the money. He's like, I'll give you the money. Okay. But then he went on holiday to the UK and to see his family, and he came back and he went, I spent some of your park run money. And I'm like, it's okay. I'll get money. No. So as I say, I managed to get a donation from peat land developers, which was great. And then I went, oh, I'm going to have to pen a letter and put out to businesses. Because parkrun is not classified as a charity here, so you really struggle to get grants from the likes of Lottery West and Act Belong Commit and all the local ones. What am I going to do? Oh, this is scary. This is hard. This is the part that was like, I don't want to do this. And I'd said to the event ambassador at the time, she's like, oh, when do you want to start, try to get money in? I'm like, look, I need to get Daweswell Parkrun's 10th anniversary out of the way with, because it's a big one. That's the start of March. I'll get that out the way with, and then I'll concentrate on Black Swan. Yeah, okay. Then I penned the email to businesses. I'm like, And it was good, but there was just certain words. I was like, I'm not happy with that. So I got it sorted. I'm like, okay. So I put to the person who said, oh, I'll pay for it. Put to him. He's like, yeah, I can give you this amount. And I know another business, so he got into another business. We'll give you money. And then I was one of the run directors. She's got a local 2 businesses. I messaged her and I says, look, I'm not looking for money, but I know she was always very supportive of parkrun down at Daweswell. Oh, yeah, I'll give you money. And I've got other business friends. Message them, we'll give you money. And it was just like, oh, okay. So then people just started coming forward. And then you're not actively allowed to advertise that you're starting up a new parkrun. So, but then word started to get out. Oh, Lynette's going to start up a parkrun. Does she need money? And then members of the public would approach me. We'll give you money. So I was like, oh, okay. And then it just snowballed. And within 5-6 weeks, the money that I needed was there. And I'm just like, pretty impressed with myself. It's only taken 5-6 weeks to, and as I say, it is a lot of money. Got the money, and it's just like, okay. So I said to the E, the money's all there. Parkrun HQ, I was always sending them the money, and they're like, oh yeah, here's your receipt, blah, blah, blah. Oh, excellent, thank you. And then obviously you've just got the paperwork to do after that. Paperwork, in my eyes, is a waste of my time. because my time is better spent out on the course in the community, because that's what I like. I like seeing people, seeing them achieve things. Sitting doing paperwork at a computer, can't be bothered. But it was something, it needed to be done. So yeah, got through that. Husband was always like, can you put on your computer, please? Help me fill this in. So he was always like, yeah, okay, and dragged him along, and he did help me do the paperwork. Got all the paperwork submitted. Then after that, I was just like waiting for just other things to just slot into place and whatever. And then obviously you get your launch date for coming to launch. You needed your trial runs. The trial runs were like the dead of winter, and it was horrible weather. And people were like, oh, you still going ahead with your trial run? Yes. And I used to say to people, this is the worst the weather will get. If you can get 2 laps round through this, then it'll never be as bad as this. And I was a couple of the launch dates, the actual practice runs. Oh, I kid you not, you were holding onto the table, you were holding onto the tokens. The wind and the rain was coming all angles, and you're just like, this is the worst it'll get. It can't get any worse. Yeah, once we launched, there was a few dodgy weekends, and obviously the lake overflowed immensely, and it's never ever done that before. And it's just like, really? But we muddled through, and we got through the winter. And then when you do the launch date, and that's nerve-wracking, it's like, this is the official date. And obviously you just get a small group of people, because, as I say, you're not allowed to advertise it. But the running community's like, oh, I've heard. And then people, and I think on our launch day we had 125, 130. And I thought, pretty good going just for a launch date. And it's just like, wow. And of course, I was the run director that day, and standing, did my little speech, wrote it up the night before, and I was always like reading. I was like, oh, I'm so nervous, because I thought, there's so many people that's given me money to start a parkrun that I actually personally know. And I just think, I don't want to fail them. And in all honesty, the word failure is not part of my personality. It's just like, no, if I think it's failing, I will plow in the hours by myself, off my own back, to make sure it's a success. Because that's what I did with Dawesville. And there was many, many weeks it would be like, oh, this is failing. No, it's not. And I would do the hours myself. And I'm quite willing to do it here as well. But it's I don't know if parkrun, because parkrun's gotten more popular over the years. And now that it's started at Black Swan or whatever, I do have to put in extra hours more than the rest of the run directors. But I don't mind. I really don't mind, because now, as I say, it's a nerve-wracking thing to do. And the launch date was like, oh, how's this going to go? And then all these people are like, oh, yeah, great. Oh, there's a bit here in the course and a bit there. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're going to get your little complaints here and there and whatever. And then 3-4 weeks later, somebody else will go, oh, see that bit there? I'm like, look, it's trail. There's nothing we can do about it. We tell you how it's going to be, blah, blah, blah. But then it settled down. I always laugh. Black Swan's one of those park runs. It's a different route every week, because we've had to change it so much times due to water overflowing on the course, and a tree down here, and bushes are a bit overhanging there. But we've kind of like dried now, so it's kind of back into what it is and whatever. But that first week, you just go, it's okay. And then the second week, I was going to run direct as well. And then the run director went, no. Another run director said, no, I'll do it. Rip the Band-Aid off, because I brought him back on from Dawesville. And because I remember him saying, when I said, right at the very start, I messaged him and said, I'm starting up another parkrun. Well, his words were, are you effing crazy? And I'm just like, yeah, I suppose I am. But I says, the community needs it. I know, especially over at North Madra, because even the years at Dawesville, the amount of emails I would get going, why have we not got one in North Madra? Why is there not one over here? And I'm just like, oh, well. And then people going, I'm going to start a parkrun. Can you let me know how you go about it? And it's like, oh, yeah, da. This is the money. And as soon as you say the figure, people go, oh. Because there's a lot of people obviously think that parkrun just pops up. They don't think that there's money behind it. They think, oh, no, it just starts. And when you say to people, this is the amount of money you've got to raise, they're like, oh, right, okay. And that puts a lot of people off. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. But I was always in my mind going, you're not going to do it, because the sheer money to raise is going to scare you. And it does. It scares a lot of people. So as I say, the second week, the run director guy says, no, I'm ripping off a Band-Aid. I'm going to do it this week. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. You can run. Okay, and this is the first time I'd run it officially with like the people, the community. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. And I remember starting up onto the path, and just as I'm going around the concrete bend, and all these crowds of people in front of me, and I remember looking going, I did that. I did this. And I remember going, don't cry, Lynette, don't cry, because if you start crying and you're not going to be able to breathe properly and it's going to be a struggle, and you go, and I'm like, oh, I did this. And it's just, even though it's really hard, it is hard work. You've got to be willing to, they've said no to me. No, I'm ignoring you. You don't tell me I can't do it. I'm going to do it. And I've just, it's hard, but I find with me being an event director at Dawesville, I had a lot of insight into this is how you go around it. This is what you do. This is the kind of money you got to raise. This is the kind of things, do's and don'ts that Parkrun Australia don't like. So it's like, okay, right, I can't do that, but I can do this and da-da-da-da. So I thought, so it was probably easier for me. It was not so much easier, but I thought I had a lot of experience behind me, because people went, oh, why are you doing it? Why are you not going to stay at Dawesville? I was like, well, but there's nobody else really in the area of Mandurah that's had the same knowledge and experience and in-depth rules and regulations that I've had. So not saying I'm the best person for the job, but I'm above a lot of the other people. If somebody just randomly came in and went, I will start a park run, and you're like, and then they go, oh, okay. So I think in that respect, I had a lot of knowledge behind me. And I thought, well, I may as well use it. And I kept thinking, well, why fail at this? You know what? I gave it a bash. I've done better than everybody else. Well, I want to start a park run. It's like, I went there and I did it and it failed. But as I say, failure's not part of my personality. And so far, we're coming into next week will be week 26. So it's like 6 months we've been doing it. More than happy with how it's turned out. And it's just like, yes, I've done it. And it's getting bigger every week. People are liking it. People are like, such good fun. And that's what my thing was. It's like, no, I'm going to make sure it's fun. And people go, I can't run. It doesn't matter if you can run. You can walk, you can skip, you can jog, you can do whatever. As long as you don't have wheels on your feet, you're fine. And I just think, park run, no, it's park fun. Come down Saturday morning, have fun, see people, and it's so great when you see people running. And then I was marshalling last week and I was able to look over, and there's just small pockets of groups, families. They sit down under the tree, they sit in the shade over there, and you just go, oh, look, I did that. And it's such a nice thing. I think if you're in a community that you love living in, if you can make it that bit better, then go for it. And it's, yeah, okay, but money's a small hurdle. It's big, but it's small. It's just like, get through it. And I did. Would I do it again? I don't know. Could I guide somebody else to do it again? Yeah, I could guide them and go, oh, yeah, right, okay, da-da-da. But it's such a good feeling to go, I've done this. It's just like, am I proud? Totally. Would I do it again? I don't know. But even the girls, my daughters were like, when I said to them, oh, I'm starting a new park run, they're like, yeah, Mom, girl boss, you can do this. And I'm like, yeah, but can I? And they're like, yeah, no, you can. You know you can. And then my husband, Mark, was just like, oh, I'm pretty impressed with you. He says, I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm just like, oh, yeah, okay. And it's yeah, some people have come over from Dawesville because obviously they live at this side of Mandurah, so it's closer for them or whatever. But yeah, it's going really good. And that was it. It's really good to just know that you're helping people in the community. And people go, oh, you don't get paid. It's just like, no, you do this off your own back. And you're like, yeah, because when I left Dawesville, a couple came up to me and they were like, you've been doing this for like 7-8 years and you don't get paid. And I'm like, no, we just thought you got paid every week. And I'm like, oh, wow. Well, if we got paid every week, then we wouldn't have a problem with volunteer rosters because everybody would be like, oh, yeah, you get paid. I said, no, you don't get paid. And they're like, wow. Oh, you've done really good. And I'm like, yeah, but you help people. And I think if you can help people and make their life a little bit better, then you're doing pretty good. You can't go far wrong. because there's a lot of people struggle out there. I mean, as I say, we get so many people from all walks of life at parkrun. Yeah, you get the competitive ones, but you get the ones coming back from injury. You get the ones that, oh, I can't run. You don't have to run. They come and walk. We've got a family, the wife can't run due to, I think, back or hip problems, but she said, well, my husband and kids are down here every week and I can't do the course, but I can help out. So she's now started volunteering. She says, I'm still involved. Yeah, you don't have to run. You can come down and volunteer, still be part of it. We've got a guy from the community round here. We thought, oh, he's always waiting for somebody every week. No, he just comes down because he knows we're there on a Saturday. He comes down to have a chat with us. He takes his little dog with him. Everybody makes a fuss of his dog. His dog absolutely loves it. And I just thought, yeah, it's people like that. You don't do it yet, but we'll work on you. And we'll just chip away. We've planted the seed, and he'll go. Because he'll always do just like one loop with his dog. And he'll like, oh, I'll go way up the road now, and I'll go and get on with my day. And we're like, oh, so you're not waiting for him. No, I just come down because you guys are here on a Saturday. And it's things like that. People really don't see things. They just rock up. I'll go do my parkrun. It's a letter B off my alphabet or something. Tick it in. I've got this time, and off I go. It's a lot more than that. I think people need to realise, like, oh, parkrun, yeah. It's just like, no, it's a lot bigger than what people think. And it's such a good thing, as I say. Keeps people healthy, physically, mentally, gives people connection every week. Yeah, you get a few things behind the scenes, you just go, but you get that with anything. Anything. There's always going to be one or two, and you just go, deal with it, move on. If you can do something good for your community, do it. And if people like you, people will help you. That's what I kept continuously saying to the EEA. I think she was always like, oh, okay. And it's like, and I always said to her, people like you, people will help you. And they did. And Black Swan was born. And I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. Because even the land developers are dropping me a line now and again. How's the numbers? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, numbers are going good. And I think they are really impressed as well. And I think we're now getting a toilet block. Lakelands had been promised a toilet block and a nature playground for donkey's years. All of a sudden, it started commencing and getting work done. And people are like, oh. And a few members of the community have commented and went, we think now that parkrun's here, it's moved up the ladder. I goes, yeah, maybe. And if it has, then it's like, yes, that's another good aspect for it. So, but yeah, it's going great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Really an impressive story that you've put there, and I don't know that I've got any more to ask.
And considering I was never a runner, people always go, oh, you've always run. No, I never ran in Scotland. I didn't start running until I moved over here. And it was just like, oh, yeah, I'll get into running. Couch to 5K, give a bit of a go. And it's just like, oh, and then people go, oh, but you must have ran at school. No. If it was like, it's cross country today, Lynette, it was like, oh, and you'd be hiding going, oh, right, I'm just going to make an excuse I don't have to take part because cross country in Scotland was rain, wind, mud, horrible. And you were like, oh, and you were always out of breath. And it's just like, no. So people go, oh, well, you've done well then. It's just like, yeah. And it's like, and there's a run club back in the town that we came from, and I always go, they do little fun runs at Christmas time. And I've messaged them 3 times already. Somebody needs to start a park run in your town. Oh, yeah, well, no, we'll just go to a park run here. No, you need to start a park run in the town. And I've got a route mapped out that you can use. And like, no, we haven't got the time. And I just think, oh, do I need to get on a plane and go backwards? Right, okay, right, you're starting a park run here. Here's the route. This is the steps we've got to go through. It's just like, just do it. Because their run club is a small run club. And yeah, they'll get runners from other little towns to come into the competition. But you go, you know what, get a park run going. And then it'll surprise you. You'll like, oh, you'll gather the people like, oh, I've seen them down the shops. Oh, they now come to park run. But they walk. It doesn't matter if they walk. They're at park run. But it's just like, yeah. It's one of those things now. It's like, it's firmly part of me now. And it's just like, I can't see me falling away from it anytime soon either. So it's just like, oh, yeah. So continue growing Black Swan. Continue making it fun, because I'm really big on that. Yeah, it can expand in size numbers-wise, but I still want that small community feel. with it, because I do actually feel you go to bigger ones, like lots, 300, 400, 500 people, and you go, it hasn't got the same community spirit. And I think 185 is the biggest we've received so far, and that was a couple of weeks ago. But even though it was 185, and we're all like, oh, we're breaking out the new rack of tokens. We're like, oh, we was all getting excited, like, oh, and they felt so new. And it's just like, but I mean, all the tokens are new, but these ones felt really new and shiny. It was like, ooh, they're smooth and no like sweaty hands have been on it. It was like, oh, great. And I thought, 185, it's a lot of people. But even though it was 185, we still had that small community feeling. And it was just, and that's what I want to keep. I want to keep the community feeling within Black Swan. Yeah, it can expand in numbers, but keep that. So people will keep coming back and going, yeah, it's such good fun. And we'll have music at the, whoever's marshalling, they're like, can I bring my speaker? You bring your speaker, you get on the music. And people are like, whoa, you got music. And they're so excited. And it's just like, yeah, like, oh, this is such good fun. Yeah, you guys have got personality. And we're like, yeah, okay, I don't know where you're going. But it's like, yeah, feel free to come back. And it's just, yeah, park run, but I also think park fun. That's what it is. Community spirit, keeping people together, bringing people together, having somewhere for people to come to get a connection with other people, especially if they're carers or they're going through health battles. So they just can come out and go, it's taken my mind off for this last 2 hours. It's given me something else to think about, forget about what's going on in the real world. Come down, talk to like-minded people. It's been fun. It's been nice. Just a community spirit thing. And that's what I'm really big on. And regardless, if I've got to bang in the hours at my own time, then so be it. It's just what I've got to do. But so far, so good. It's been really good, but it's just the way I am. And coming from Scotland, I was never community-minded. I was nothing like, I'm a completely different person here in Australia than what I am in Scotland. I would have like, help the community. No. Over here, it's just like, oh yeah, you just do it. So it's just like, it's just something, it's actually part of me now. So it's just like, yeah, I like this. And as I say, you can help people, then you're doing pretty all right.
What's next for you?
Parkrun-wise, I'm just going to continue growing Black Swan Lake. I'm just happy with what I've done. I just want to, like, as I say, grow the community that bit more, but keep the community spirit alive and the closeness of it, and just keep encouraging people. Because we do get people down and go, oh, I don't know, and they're like, no, just out you go, you'll be fine. And then they come across the line and they're like, I really like that. And you're like, yeah, I'm coming back next week. You go, yes. That's what. And the same with volunteering. People, since we're new to the area, people are like, oh, volunteer. I don't know. And then okay, right, we'll give you an easy job. You can be the marshal, or you can hand out the tokens. Oh, yeah, okay. And they're like, oh, that wasn't hard. It's a timekeeper position we've got to work on, because people go, timekeeping, I'm not doing timekeeping. Because if it goes wrong and everybody's 59, it's my fault. No, you're just a volunteer. You don't get paid for it, so you'll be fine. I says, we'll have your back. We'll be there and whatever. And then even at Dawesville, the old guy I was talking about previously, he was always like, he would do the timing when it was a stopwatch, because he does a lot of timing for Masters athletics. And then we changed to the app. Oh, Lynette, that's it. I'm not doing timekeeping anymore. No, you'll be fine. No, I can't work. No, I'm not doing it on the phone. No, that's a bit new. No, I says no. And there was one weekend I said to him, do you want me to pop you down for timekeeping next week? No. And you could see in his head, he was ticking away going, could I do it? Trust me, you'll be able to do it. I'll stand next to you and I'll just stay with you for the whole time. I says, I'm run directing next week. I'll stay beside you. Okay. So he came down. What do I have to do with this app? So I showed him. I said, come on, we'll have a practice. Oh, yeah, okay. Right, we'll reset, right? 3, 2, 1, everybody's away. I says, right, just pop your phone down the table. Don't touch it. Okay. Right, come on, here's our first person coming across. Pressed. Oh, okay. Person 10, person 20, person 30, so on and so forth. Gets to the end. Till walk across his line. Okay. What do we do now? Right, okay, right. We'll press this button here. Or no, don't press reset. Just press stop. And then scan this QR code. Look, that's it. It's uploaded. So what else do I do? No, that's it. And he turned to me and he went, I did it. I goes, yeah. And he's like, you could see he was proud as punch with himself. And then the following week, there was another person, they're like, oh, I'm doing timekeeping. Oh, I'm not sure. And they were really wary. And I said, oh, look, I'll deal with you in a minute. I'm dealing with this just now. And I was dealing with something else. And I said, I'll be with you in a minute. And then I'd finished dealing. And I just looked over. And here was the old guy from the week before who was all nervous about using the app. He was busy walking the person through going, no, this is what you do. You do this and do that. And I just looked over and I went, this is what it's about. Even learning, as the saying goes, old dogs, new tricks and whatever. He was so nervous the week before. He did it. He got his confidence with it. And here was him the following week showing somebody else who was in the same position as him the week before going, I can't do it. I don't know. Here was him showing it. And I just thought, brought a bit of a tear to my eyes. And you know what? He still time keeps yet. He's been over to us once because our course is not very suitable for him because he's a speed walker. But he still time keeps at Dawesville with the app. And his confidence is like, yeah, I can do this, and he finds it so easy. And I just think, you know what? Just learning the older generation, new skills as well. Just things like that. And you just go, well, they've learned something new today. And they were nervous, but they've gotten their confidence. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do that. And it's just little things like that. You just go, I helped you get there. So it's just good. It's such a nice feeling. It's just like, yeah.
It's
I helped
amazing.
somebody. I sometimes think, have I really helped? But then if you step back and take a look at the big picture, you go, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Lynette, for talking all about Black Swan Lake parkrun and the story behind it and what it means and how you did it. And it's quite an amazing journey. Thank you for all the things that you've put together with that. And all Forest.chat listeners wish you all the best with growing Black Swan Lake parkrun.
And thank you for taking the awesome photos that you take every time you come. I'm sure other parkruns are jealous going, Paul's at that parkrun again. What can I say? People like us.
And we'll be back again.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
Wonderful. You've been listening to Forest.chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we've been talking with Lynette Milne about setting up Black Swan Lake parkrun. Remember, there are 4 ways to get involved with Forest.chat. Share the domain Forest.chat with your friends and family and people you meet. When you sign up for emails, you get early notice of the episodes. Listen to the episodes at forest.chat/episodes. If you do something interesting or you know other people might be interested in doing, then book an interview at forest.chat/interview. If you want to support a small business, book an advert at forest.chat/advert. I'm looking forward to joining you with our next guest. Until then, enjoy making it happen.